is. Record. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Thriving Lives podcast, our weekly Wednesday Zoom call. Tonight, we are going to be talking about leading for your family. Kind of what does that look like? Most of our purposes while we're here, whether it's our current family or maybe a future family, maybe it's thinking about longevity, where we're going to end up at in 5, 10, 25 years from now. Before we get rocking and rolling into that, though, Renee, how's your week been?
Pretty good. I've had two 3-day hygiene work weeks in a row, so that's been kind of nice. Monday I got in a tough workout. I went to a small gym in Lee Summit with one of my bosses, and
I saw
it was
that.
fun.
That gym looked cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Had a garage door, which I think is fun. I normally do one exercise in my sets, and maybe I'll superset and do two exercises, and then I have rest between my sets and things like that. And this was kind of more like a circuit, I would say. It was 4 exercises in one set,
Yeah.
and it was just a lot. And then the other set was also 4 exercises.
What was the gym called?
It's called Prolific.
Prolific. Oh yeah. Prolific PT. That looked cool. It was
Yeah.
It was a downtown
In Lee
Lee
Summit, yeah, downtown Lee Summit.
Summit?
It was cool. My hamstrings are still sore, back is still sore.
Nice.
But it was cool to switch it up and see how someone else does things. Also, it was super nice because it's kind of like personal training, but group fitness. So you walk in and they have trainers that give you a workout to do, and they come in and check on you periodically. So it was actually really nice for me to show up, and I didn't have to think. I was like,
You didn't have to think about it. Yeah,
you're gonna tell me what I'm supposed to do. I'm
like,
supposed to, I'm always the one creating my workouts or telling other people what to do. So it was kind of nice to just
yeah,
fully work out and have fun. So it's unexpected fun morning.
yeah.
And then just working and walking, and
We did our photo. We did, Renee and I, my wife was our photographer, did a little photo shoot on Sunday. Renee got to kind of experience what it's like to do a photo shoot where you have to hold reps and whatnot for the camera, and it makes you very unevenly sore.
Unevenly sore.
Yeah, but that was a good time. Then we got some new merch. Not really anything we're gonna sell at the moment. Renee's got her tee on. I got a hoodie on. But anyway, we might do maybe do a little pre-sale list or something if anybody has any interest in merch. If you do, let us know so we know that there's a want for that and we can figure that out as well. I really want to get a hat done, but those cost a little bit more on the upfront. But anyway, though,
how's your week?
It's pretty good. Busy weekend. Played some pickleball on Sunday after we got done with our photo shoot. That was cool. Got to do some family time. Went golfing, like I said yesterday. Shot terrible. Don't need to get into all that, but it was a good day. Got burnt. Got a lot of sun. But anyway, though, let's dive into the topic at hand. Though, so we're talking about leading for your family. So let's start by kind of talking about this real quick. So think about when you guys were a kid, and you obviously grew up watching your parents live, right? How they ate, how they slept, how did they exercise or not exercise? How did they handle stress? Did they stress eat? Did they come home from work and just sit on the couch? Did they go out and mow, work on the yard? What did their lifestyle kind of look like? And then think about this. As you grew up, you probably took after a lot of them, right? Because as you're a young kid, you looked at your parents, whether they were killing it in life or not killing it in life, you looked at them as your role model, your first role model, your first superhero in life. You wanted to be like them as a little kid, right? As you grew up, you might have grown out of that. Maybe you continued doing that. One of the things I like to kind of talk about on calls with new clients with it, and kind of posing this as well, is thinking about we either grew up to become just like our parents, whether we hate that or love that, or we grew up to be the opposite of them in spite of them, right? We're like, oh, I hated this about my parents, I'm going to do the complete opposite. And usually what happens is people will say, I want to do the opposite. I don't want to be like my parents or whatever context you're talking about. But yeah, you end up still kind of becoming like them, especially when it comes to health and fitness. I mean, first and foremost, obviously how we are in the world as well, how we handle our stress, how we handle our emotions. And really it's then up to us to unlearn these things, right? Now, obviously there's a lot of wins and a lot of great things that we learn from our parents as well. But there's always going to be some negatives. And, I'm fearful of what those negatives are that Lola gets from me, but I'm mindful of those things. And obviously, as she gets older and she becomes more and more of a sponge, I have to be even more mindful of those things. And that can be obviously exhausting as a parent. And I know that not everybody here is a parent, but you've all had parents before of some sort, or some sort of guardian that you kind of took after, right? So what I want you to kind of think about, if you have children, or maybe if you ever have children in the future, is kind of think about this. Let's say you got a 5-year-old right now and you're currently 40 years old. What do you want their life to look like when they're 40? What do you want their habits to look like? What do you want their lifestyle to look like? What do you want their health to look like? What do you want their mindset and their confidence levels to look like? If you're currently struggling with your own confidence issues, your own motivation, your own energy levels, maybe you got some bad lab work, blood work, stuff of that nature. Maybe you're on medications. Maybe you just don't have a lot of fire for life at the moment. And when you think about when my 5-year-old becomes my age. Do I want them struggling with the same stuff that I'm struggling with? Whatever that kind of looks like. Could be finances, right? Maybe you suck at money and you're like, I don't want my kids to be like this. Well, what are you doing about that so that they have a different outcome, right? So that when they're 40, they're not dealing with those same struggles that you're currently dealing with. And this is where shit gets hard, right? Because that's going to require you to make some changes, right? Because you can't just sit there and preach, because we all know this, at least in one area of being a child with their parents, is they preach something that they did not practice themselves. And no matter how old you were, especially if you're a little bit older, teenage wise, you saw right through that. You're like, that's bullshit. And you probably did the opposite of what they were telling you to do, because they weren't following the same thing as they were preaching, right? And so that kind of can make you resentful or just not really believe in kind of what that is. And so we don't necessarily want to just sit there on this pedestal and preach while we're not living those same things, right? So this comes back to, let's think about this from our health perspective again, is if we're coming home and just sitting on the couch after a long, stressful day, grabbing, a glass of, whiskey. Maybe we're just grabbing, fun foods and sitting on the couch and snacking on that stuff. If that's kind of how we're relieving our stress, how we're ending our day, what's going to be normal for those children as they get older, right? When they have a stressful day, when they're just getting home from school, what habits are they probably going to do, right? They're probably not going to go outside and be very active. They might not even care about being physically, going to a sports or stuff of that nature, because they don't see their parents doing anything of that nature, right? Unless they're just forced to be in it. So again, it comes back to, we got to think about, where do we want our children to be? What do we want their habits to be like as they grow older? And then how do we emulate those things, right? The best way for them to develop those habits is by them seeing those habits, by that being part of their normal days, their normal activities, and seeing what their parents do as well, who again are their superheroes. So that's what we're talking about here with leading for your family, right? We, again, most parents, they want to teach their kids to be nice, to be kind, to be honest, to be trustworthy. All these are great character traits. But what about being physically active? And this doesn't have anything to do with our body composition at all. This has to do with, scientifically, we should be active, right? Weight training is good for us because it helps us build muscle, which then helps a ton of things, right? Including just daily living, just to be able to stand up and down from a chair, just to be able to, as you get older, if you fall down, you're able to get yourself up, to be able to work in the yard, work on the house, stuff of that nature. It's important that we have these physical abilities to be able to do that stuff. We all have to eat every single day and drink water and things of that nature. And when we are neglecting those things, then we have poor health, and that usually leads to poor mental health as well. So what are they seeing you do is really kind of what I'm getting at with this. And so when you're lacking that motivation to do what you need to do for your own goals, think about, what are those little ones around you seeing you do as well? And what are they seeing as normal? And if they're seeing those things as normal, what does that mean for them in 10, 20, 30 years from now? Are you forcing them to now have to unlearn something that you could possibly be unlearning that you grew up with? And now you're putting that on them to have to then go unlearn that? Or can you do that for them at the moment? You do that hard work, so you're making their groundwork and their life a little bit easier with it. Now, Renee, you don't have any children with it, but anything you want to, and again, this doesn't have to be with you guys have children, but Renee, what's kind of your take on this?
I think it is. I think I've seen especially a lot of clients struggle like it when, let's say well, so I guess I'm kind of the opposite in the sense of like, I kind of took a turn for health first out of my family. Um, and now my parents have kind of followed in that. My dad was kind of on the same timeline I was, a little bit before me actually. But my parents have watched me get healthier and it's helped inspire them to get healthier. And I think a lot of times too, like I've had clients say that their parents don't understand why they're changing. They're kind of like forcing them, like, oh well, like just eat this bad food or just do this. Like you'll be fine. And the parent is not encouraging the child to do better. I think that can be very taxing for a child who still like looks up to their parent or wants that approval still. Whereas in my mind, it was kind of like, okay, well, I am going to get healthier and no one really shamed me for like getting healthier though, or like no one was like, oh well, like you should eat this anyways. Everyone was really accepting when I decided to get healthier, but I think some parents, since they
not everybody
feel
has that
that,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, since a lot of parents probably feel that guilt, they just shame their child of like, oh well, I want a burger and I don't feel bad about it, so my daughter shouldn't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
I think can be some people's experience, whereas kind of funny, I'm actually the opposite. I'm very hard on my mom because if she isn't eating healthier, if she's drinking or not making the best choices, I'm the first one there to remind her to do better.
And that's
And
also if you know that it isn't just that it's an unhealthy choice, because that's not the bad part. It's for her specifically that you know that she has certain like dietary kind of issue,
correct.
meaning she's going to have
She's gonna have
yeah,
repercussions from it. And
exactly.
so my mom and I've been through
You're
a
there to be there.
shaky
Yeah.
patch on that as we kind of navigate that.
Mhm.
And I think it's just interesting as far as like I was telling Marcus, I wasn't raised in like a very like fitness centered family at all, whereas Marcus was. There was
Well,
6 of us
kind of,
kids.
kind of.
What?
I said kind of. I wouldn't say it was super fitness focused, but yeah, kind
You
of.
were like sports though, like
Well, yeah, sports.
active. Whereas there was
That wasn't you.
6 kids of us, and we ate just like shit growing up because that's what my parents could afford, feeding 6 children, which
Yeah.
I think it's funny because I pay so much money on a month for my own groceries. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no way I
You
would
need-
be paying times 6 this amount
Yeah.
for groceries. So I mean, just terrible food growing up. And so I didn't change until I was like 23, 24.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to like get out of those habits of just completely eating like shit because that's how I was raised. And I mean, my parents would try to like give us vegetables and I would be like, no, I'm not eating that.
Yeah.
And so it's just very ironic that I even ever changed because I feel like when you grow up and you're just complete, like you're just constantly fed that like poor food, you don't necessarily
Well, yeah. Well, you also had
hard to change.
fortunately for you, you had some good catalysts. Whether it be getting out of a relationship or it be some own, mental health things that you're trying to work on, or just purely you knew that the shit that you were eating at that time made you not feel good, and it was only making all these other things worse. So then that was
Yeah, I will say I got forced to like eat
yeah.
healthier.
But again, most people, there's still a lot of people there that are very sensitive to gluten.
And they just ignore it.
There's a lot of people that are very sensitive to alcohol, which is most people, and they still keep it in as like a daily piece of their life. And so yes, you could sit there and say that you were forced to do it, but a lot of people should technically be forced to do it, but they still don't do it because it's easier to not change and stay kind of stuck with where you are, even though in the long run it's way harder. In the immediate short term, it's just way easier to not work against what you're used to doing,
And I think too, like, it's easy, I think, when you're a parent to want to change for your child or like want to change your lifestyle so your kids watch you live longer and eat healthier and things like that, have more energy. Like my mom, that was one of her goals, was wanting to like be around the grandchildren longer and have more energy and things like that. And it's kind of funny, like my goals for myself are fully like self-centered and selfish in a positive way, I would say. So It's interesting how everyone's goals can kind of be different. And so even if you don't have a family, I think it still shows putting yourself first is eventually, if you ever have a family or anything like that, you're going to then have a much more stable base than if you were to not change. I think you have to want to change for yourself in addition to wanting to change for your family. I think if you just change for your family, I don't know if it is fully enough in my eyes of not having children. But
Yeah,
again, that's
no, fair
where
enough.
I'm different than.
Well, I think that's going to be true for a lot of people as well. Just like the inverse might be true, but that's true as well. I mean, there's so many nuances with it, and everybody's different, and their motivations are different. What keeps them going is different as well. But again, like using that as one extra piece of motivation will generally help people as well.
Oh yeah.
And this is another thing as well. And like I've actually seen like Instagram posts about this, but people would say I'd kill for my family. I'd go to the ends of the earth, right?
Yes.
What about just changing what's on your plate, what you're bringing into the house, what you're
Or
putting
it's
in your
like, would you live for your family though?
exactly. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you would do all these things, you'd work 15 hours a day, but what about just being present and just eating the right things, right? And talking about health and fitness in a positive manner. What if you just did that? That's doing a lot for your family. Way more than I think people give it credit for. But I have some other kind of thoughts that I'm going to come back to as well. But before I just go on another tangent where I'm just rambling to you guys, anybody have any thoughts about this? And your experience growing up with it, which I'll share mine a little bit here as well. But yeah, your experience growing up with it, your experience as a parent, and again, so for some of my new people on the call as well, like you don't have to share it all, but if you have anything, that you want to throw out there, the floor is yours. You can always throw something in the chat as well. I'll give you guys as I take a sip if anybody wants to chime in.
I think that you're totally right that everything that you do matters to the people around you, whether it be family or kids. Like I don't have kids, but I've got a niece and I've got my boyfriend's his cousin is little. She's like 1.5 and she she goes on walks with us. Like
Yeah, that's
everything
awesome.
that you do matters. Everything that like they want to be just like you. They want like
Yeah,
everything you do influences the way that they want to be or not to be. So like I knew that like everyone in my family, it's like so toxic to say this, but like at reunions, it's the alcoholic holics.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
so toxic to
That's
say
awesome.
that. But like it's true. Like everybody is like super heavy and it's because they are all drunks. And I
Mhm.
love my family. I think they're great people. I think they have really high hopes.
Yeah,
But I think they just got into the wrong thing at the wrong age and then their kids have luckily been like, I don't want to be like that. So
yeah,
they're turning it around. And I think we all are realizing that we don't want to be like that anymore. We don't
yeah,
want that to be our stereotype anymore.
yeah.
And I think that's really important. And I think that this is such a great topic to bring up for our first meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. First week, you're just diving right on into a little bit of a
Oh,
deeper
yeah.
topic. But yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
and to take that step, a little bit further, at family reunions or get-togethers, stuff like that is the time that most of us would indulge in that type of thing. But it's like, okay, well, what are you doing on a normal Tuesday though? Like if you're just doing it on these special occasions, then hey, live it up, enjoy it. That's what life is all about. But then control it the rest of the time, right? Pick and choose when you're gonna really indulge versus just all the time. And it's and it sounds like you and your family, like the younger ones and whatnot, have kind of made that choice to grow up in spite of what they saw with that and to choose a healthier kind of path for yourselves, which I feel like that's also just kind of this newer generation as well. I feel like our younger generations are seeing this, seeing health as a more cool thing. And if that's true as well, then hey, that's fantastic. Whatever we got to do to keep people going.
And my dad also, like watching everybody else being healthy. My dad started doing triathlons and marathons, and
That's
he did his first half Ironman. So he's really being encouraged from everybody else trying, and he's been 10 years sober. So from everybody else, just like, going through like trials and tribulations, you've
yeah,
got people that are showing you that there's a way out. And I
yeah,
think that's great.
that is great. That is great. That's awesome. Good for your dad. That's badass. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for being here on your first week as well. Anybody else
Yeah,
have
of
anything
course.
you can throw out there?
I have something. So I think when I was growing up, my mom was like not the type of person to like push health on us. She was like the hamburger helper every night for dinner type of thing. And the like my mom will tell you full on, like, she doesn't go outdoors. She doesn't like the outdoors. She doesn't like to like be outside. Like, that's just not her thing. So for us, it was never that growing up either, because we didn't ever experience that. But I think becoming a parent has like altered my mind to being like, I don't want my kids to grow up like that, because my mom is scared of an ant. And like, I don't want my kids to be like that. Like, I want them to go outside, and like, I want to offer better meals besides, hamburger helper every night for dinner for my
Yeah.
kid. And like, he's only 6 months old. So obviously we're talking in the future here, but
Still.
I think that's a big thing. Yeah, that it's like altered my mind. And even since I started doing this, my mom has started kind of watching her weight and walking more, which is shocking for her. But it's good. Like, I feel like it's good that like she was saying, like, everyone around you is affected. So like, even me being obviously a lot younger than my mom, like, it's even helping her get to a better point too.
I'm happy you brought that up, because that was kind of one of my next points as well, was that, while the topic of tonight, the title, if you will, was about leading for your family, it doesn't just start and stop with just our family, right? Like or our children as well, right? Like, your mom has made positive choices because, oh, Hannah's on this, health kick or whatever the case is. And it's not just health kick, it's a lifestyle change as well. But so she's been inspired by that. And so that's kind of the other thing as well, is that though none of us started maybe purely just for our children or purely to influence others, that is a very, very healthy side effect of you starting to better yourself, what you're consuming from a food standpoint, from just, an environment standpoint as well. And so when you start making those better choices like that, and you're feeling better and you're thriving, your digestion's better and your energy's better, you're thinking more clearly, you're more jovial and happy. That's going to entice other people to want to make some of these changes as well, right? And so just by one person making a change, there's a domino effect that will occur. I mean, I could say that anybody who's had success with thriving lives, they've probably seen a domino effect in their life. Because think about it, if you've changed one person's life and they start making, just because of what you've done, and they start making those changes, I can almost guarantee that there is a domino effect in their life as well. One other person got helped at the very minimum, right? One other person was inspired, and that continues going on and on and on. And that's honestly one of my favorite things about Thriving Lives as well, is like hearing that not just the people that I've individually worked with, or that Renee's individually worked with, but that has spread, that spider webbed out to their families, their coworkers, their friends, their children and stuff like that. Because then think about then the levels of that. I mean,
I think that's kind of both of our like mutual goals.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I think you touch more lives than just your clients or things like that. Like, you've gone to help more people just by adding me on,
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yes. That's very true as well. Just adding you on now, you're have
another.
That's correct. Yeah. There's more and more levels to that, and I think that's fantastic. And really, at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to do with Thriving Lives as well, is literally help as many people along the journey as well. And social media has been a great thing for that as well. And so that's the other thing too, is, and this wasn't even part of what I was going to say, but like, some people might find it annoying how much I post on social media about, what I'm eating or being active, going on walks with my dog, like whatever it is that I'm kind of talking about. My thought is, if that one post annoyed 10 people, but it helped one person, then I did my job, right? I got one person, whether they came to Thriving Lives or they reached out or they just were more intentional and mindful that day, then that's a win for me as well. And now that's nobody else's job here other than Renee's and I's. But just know that as you're posting this stuff, if you do, or as you talk about it to other people, and as you're just making these healthy choices, other people are going to, see that as well. Yeah. Courtney, what's up?
I honestly, after Sherry showed me your Instagram, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta do this. I was like, there's no way that I'm not following this guy on. I was like, everything he eats, it looks delicious. Everything he posts, I want to do that.
That's
like,
awesome.
even my parents were like, oh my god, the before and after. You're like, you got to do that. So like,
awesome.
yes, your Instagram, it might be annoying to the people that are haters, but you have a lot of people that are supportive.
Well, and I would guess, and I truly do appreciate what you said, but I would guess that a lot of those people as well, that even the people that have become, TLFers as well, probably at one point they're like, oh, this is irritating. But usually it's also like, if you're triggered by something, generally you got something else kind of going on, especially if it's something positive. If you're triggered by something that's positive, then you got your own kind of, shit to deal with probably.
Yeah, for sure.
For
sure.
Yeah. Thanks for that though. I mean, that, again, that's just feedback into kind of what what I'm doing with it though. Anybody else have anything they want to share about, their journey with this as a parent, as an individual, or as a child as well? I got a few other things I got to talk about as well afterwards. All right. All right. So to take this, we just kind of talked about, how this is not just limited to family. So really with myself kind of growing up, I don't even think I really need to talk about that too much. But yeah, I grew up, Renee kind of alluded to this, with sports being a big part of my childhood, playing competitive baseball all over the country, which was a huge, huge aspect of my growing up. My dad always went to the gym. Mom, kind of like your mom, Hannah, not really wanting to go outside, not wanting to sweat. She would sweat at my baseball games. That was about the extent of it. But yeah, so, my dad would always go to the gym, but nutrition wise, both of them, I mean, they were just average Americans, eat out, things of that nature. I mean, if I was playing baseball 4 or 5 times a week, we were eating out, fast food at least 4 or 5 times a week, if not more with that. It was, survival mode. It was eating on the go, stuff of that nature, which I appreciate, a ton of, just because we were able to do all my baseball stuff that I really wanted to do as well, and that they obviously were there for. But there's ways to kind of work around that, and it's just tough to do that when you don't know really how to even have balanced eating. And even nowadays, I mean, yeah, there's plenty of tools and education and resources, and you're just a Google away from everything. But everything's so damn contradictive on online. I mean, you can see one post that says eggs are good, and you can see the next post that say eggs are bad, or you name it, whatever that is. But so there's definitely a lot of just struggles with kind of finding what is the way to go with it. But yeah, so I mean, from a nutrition standpoint specifically, I didn't grow up with really anybody that ate healthy within my immediate family or distant family either. Again, I would classify it as just your normal standard American diet. Water intake that was never really an issue, because I played so much baseball and it was so hot all the time that I was downing water with no issue. But, I made the choice in middle school, actually, like 6th grade. I was like, when my parents went from like regular pop to diet, and I was like, well, if we're cutting back this, why even do the diet? Like at that age, I was like, if we're putting something into our body that we know is not good for us, then yeah, we're doing a diet thing, but it's still same shit for the most part. It's just less sugar in it. So it was like, why do this at all? Right. So I made that choice. And then I made the choice later on in high school that I don't need to be doing fast food. Like it was cheap and it was easy for, early high school. But it got to the point where I was like, why am I eating all this junk shit? Like, I don't feel good doing this. And that was even at a young age that I was doing that as well. But so, especially from a nutritional standpoint, I would say I grew up, in spite of my parents with that. And what's awesome as well, kind of full circle with it, is now I get to help my parents with this stuff as well. Ben added something here in the chat here. I recently came up with the mantra, be the man worthy of you walking your daughter down the aisle to. Because the reality is we as a dad, we will become the model for what she goes into the world to find, which is 100% true as well. I think about that as well. Whether it's, Lola wants to marry a female, marry a male, doesn't matter to me. But what comes down to that is like, what are the qualities I want her to look for in somebody down the road, right? So it's not just what is she going to become that's like me. It's also who is she going to search out for? And I think about that, and this is taking it to another level as well, but like my relationship with Nicole, how do we handle our problems? How do we work through things in front of Lola, not in front of Lola? And, she's only 8 months right now. But again, like the habits we have today, the conversations we have in front of her today will probably be the conversations we have in front of her when she's 8. Right. And that only kind of snowballs from there. So no, I love that. Be the man worthy of you walking your daughter down the aisle too. I love that, Ben. And I think that, in your journey is to keep using that as that mantra, right? It's not just saying it once, but anytime you're struggling, anytime I don't want to go do my workout, I don't want to eat the healthier food right now, or whatever the case is, repeat that, because I know that's a big motivator for you, right? And you're living that person who you want to become. And that's really all of us, right? We all have somebody who we're trying to become, just a better version of ourselves. But if we're not intentional with that, and if we're not mindful of who that person actually is, and we don't have, self check-ins with ourselves to see, are my actions aligned with who I want to become, then we never become that person, right? That just like any of our other goals, if we're not doing that check-in, then we're not going to become that person, which comes back to what we always talk about with the importance of check-ins, right? Every week within Thriving Lives, make sure you're checking in because that's a big piece of it. So one other thing that I wanted to talk about as well, and some of you guys kind of alluded to this and kind of touch on it as well, is, and this kind of comes back to, especially if you have smaller children or even older children, is how do you talk about health? How do you talk about your body? How do you talk about food? How do you talk about fitness in front of them, right? If we talk about, let's say for instance, I ate like shit all Memorial Day weekend. And so I come into the week on Tuesday and I say, Dad needs to go to the gym so I can go do cardio to kind of make up for this weekend, right? If we're talking about fitness as a punishment to how we ate, that is already creating this terrible stigma around fitness and around nutrition, not just to ourselves, like we're giving that to ourselves as well, but now we're also preaching that in front of our children as well, right? If you're constantly beating yourself up, if you're acting like you can't do something, if you suck at something, and that's how you're verbalizing it out to the world, and your little ones are hearing that, what are they seeing? What are they hearing? And again, what are their thoughts going to be, right? Because they're now seeing it's normal for dad to beat himself up, right? It's normal on mom to talk down on herself. It's normal for, them to say ice cream is the devil, whatever that looks like. Obviously you put your own kind of phrasing on it, but that's what a lot of parents do, right? That's what a lot of kids see, and especially in past generations, right? Hopefully this generation isn't seeing that as much, but I'm sure it's still definitely happening. And so it's very important that you're mindful of how you're talking about yourself, how you're talking about food, about your body and things like that. So like, I wouldn't say, especially if you're starting this journey with Thriving Lives, is not to say, oh, daddy can't eat that, mommy can't eat that because I'm on a diet, I'm trying to lose weight. No, don't say it like that. First off, just you have the choice over bringing this stuff into the house anyway. So maybe you just start changing what you're bringing to the house and bring in less of the shitty things and bring in more of the positive things, right? Bring more of those healthier things. But also it's not to say that you can't have that stuff. It's just that right now I know what's going to make me feel better, right? I know that eating this meal is going to help me feel stronger. I'm going to feel more energized. I'm going to feel more happy because of this, whatever your words want to be, but just think about the context in which you're talking about these things. And that's a huge piece of, again, you're talking about it, you're living it in front of those children as well. And that's super, super important. Ben also said, I often talk about, does our grocery cart reflect our goals? 100%. Right. So I notice that all the time. Like, I don't judge people when I'm at the grocery store, but I am looking at their cart. So I guess I am kind of judging just a little bit. Just think about what they're putting in there, right? Because if I see this dude just loaded up 5 packs, what are they, 12 packs? I forgot what Cokes and stuff come in cans and stuff. But yeah, 24 packs maybe. If that's what's in there, if they have a bunch of cookies and a bunch of processed foods, then I can, pretty much guess what's going on from a health standpoint and definitely what their trajectory is. So yeah, from a health standpoint, what does their grocery cart look like? What does their schedule look like for that week? That's not as obvious. But that's one of those things as well. So again, like these little mental check-ins, these little things that you can do to catch yourself in the moment as you're adding something to your grocery cart, as you're ordering food at a restaurant, stuff like that, is like, just be mindful of the choices that you're making. And yeah, it's hard at first, but as you continue to make those positive choices and see results because of it and feel better because of it, it's easier to make those positive choices in the future. But yeah, anybody have anything to kind of add on to that, into the conversations we have about our health and fitness, into your relationship with all this stuff?
I think we're kind of lucky now at a point where, well, I guess I think of it because I am fully immersed in it, whereas I have to take a step back also and think that not everyone is at that same point in life that I'm at. Like, to me, I'm so immersed in health that it's just normal. But
yeah,
I do think we have way more access to health than our parents ever did.
Yep.
And so I think it's all about who you follow or who you surround yourself with, things like that. Those things are going to in turn help you help your children, and any little tiny thing that you say might end up sticking with your kids. You have to kind of be careful on how you comment on your body. Or just everything, I think, comes into play. And so being mindful of that, but I do think our generation has a better kind of leg up being able to have that choice to surround yourself with more healthy options. Now, granted, yes, the economy is tough and healthy food is expensive, but there's still ways to, I think, to give your kids those full nutrient dense foods, opposed to just eating the shitty foods. And then, yeah, especially I think it's huge when anyone starts a journey and their kids are watching them, to not say like, mommy has to eat something different for dinner tonight because she can't eat what you're having, because that's strange. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you can give it to me, but you can't eat it. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so you have to kind of word that very carefully. And I think also just being mindful of, okay, you're right. So we're adults with our brain developed, but we're feeding our kids just these absolute shitty foods, and their minds are developing, and it's not going to help them in any way, shape, or form. And so I think if you can think, okay, I'm helping myself here, I should also maybe help my child develop better. I think that can help make a big shift on what you put in your grocery cart as well.
I agree. And again, like, I mean, Lola's 8 months old. She just had spaghetti for the first time last night. Like, she's not a full grown, child out here picking what she wants to eat and stuff like that. But I will say this as well, and this is the experience from also coaching a lot of parents over the years, is, again, you're their superhero. So when you're eating certain things, and that's the norm, is that you're eating X, Y, and Z. You're eating more fruits. You're eating more veggies, stuff like that. Your kids might be picky and stuff of that nature, and that is hard to work with. And I hope I don't have to cross that bridge. I'm sure I will at some point, and I'll have to kind of figure it out as well. But with that being said, though, if they're seeing normal, healthy habits when it comes to nutrition as well with it, they want to be like mom and dad. They want to be like their superhero. And if this is what mom and dad are eating, this is what they might want to go with. That also comes back with exercise. I think it's super powerful to invite your kids to do your workout with you. They might come in and say, hey, can I do this with you? They might just come and join you anyway. And sometimes I know that can be difficult as well, like in certain situations, meaning like, maybe that's your time to kind of check out and be with yourself with it. But at the same time, if they want to join, then that's freaking awesome. If your kids want to join you with, your walks and things of that nature. And again, you're just making this stuff more normal for their lives as well. But also another healthy side effect of that is that, and I've seen this happen quite a bit as well, is you make it a habit to work out with your kids or to go on walks with your kids. And that becomes their normal routine, right? So the day that you don't want to, because you had a very long, stressful day and all you want to do is veg out on the couch, but little Susan comes in and says, oh, we're doing our workout, we're going on our walk. That's going to motivate you to get out there and do it. Sorry, that was my alarm. I got to turn off the sprinkler here in a few minutes. Threw down some fertilizer before the call, but anyway, though. So yeah, so think about all those things, hopefully, when you guys listen to this, you have at least one solid takeaway that you can, kind of walk with yourself with this. That's awesome. That's all you said there, Ben. But yeah. So good conversation. I think I've hit it from as many angles as I can think about at the moment, but anybody have any other questions you guys have, pertaining to this topic, a different topic, or anything you guys want to add before we let you go for the night? Or Renee, you got anything else?
Not really, no. I think we kind of got it.
Wonderful. Well, we got our challenge going right now. I got some, the newer friends within TLF. Just so you guys know, we've done a couple challenges within the community the past couple months. We will probably not be doing a challenge in the month of June, but picking it back up after July 4th. I think that's kind of what Renee and I were talking about before this. We'll figure out what that challenge is going to look like. But anyway, though, I know we got some people kicking ass on this month's challenge, which was tracking your macros on a daily basis and doing 3 things you're grateful for, which I'm excited. I'm going to ask a question about it in the community group and just hear what people's kind of takeaway has been that have really religiously stuck to, writing down 3 things that they're grateful for each day. I know for me, it really helps a lot. Helps me kind of get myself into a better optimistic mindset, more positive mindset, things of that nature. But anyway, you guys have a great rest of your week. Hopefully you guys had a great Memorial Day. If you were a part of the military of any way, shape, or form, thank you for your service, Ben. I know you were a Marine. I appreciate your service, brother. You guys have a great rest of the week. Happy check-in day tomorrow. Let's kill it.